In the freezing dark of the cosmos, humanity did the unthinkable. We cast our own child out of the cradle. Look back at that fragile blue fortress of rock and ocean, the only safe haven we have ever known. But this delicate messenger cannot stay. Weighing no more than a small car, it has officially separated from its home, embarking on a lonely, suicidal trajectory toward the absolute center of our reality. It carries no passengers, no promise of return. Only the quiet defiance of a species that dared to look straight into the fire. Ahead lies a roaring wilderness of unmitigated fury, where human physics breaks down entirely. To reach the executioner, the explorer must lose its speed. It dives toward Venus, using the crushing gravity of the toxic planet to bend its path and drop deeper into the gravitational well of a giant. There is no turning back now. The cosmic trap has snapped shut, and the lone wanderer is falling into the terrifying abyss of stellar fury. And there, the sanctuary shatters. The Pioneer has officially entered the Forbidden Zone, the multi-million-degree furnace of the solar corona. Traveling at a blistering 400,000 miles per hour, it now dances along lines of intense magnetic warfare, wrapped in a blinding hell of liquid fire. It flies with a tragic purpose, fully aware that in the coming years, its fuel will empty, its shield will tilt, and it will be instantly vaporized, forever assimilated into the very star it sought to understand. Even in the face of absolute oblivion, humanity chose to reach out and touch the light. We live our fragile, brief lives in the presence of a monster. For 4.5 billion years, a thermonuclear tyrant has sat at the absolute center of our reality, anchoring 99.8% of all the mass in the solar system. We call it the Sun. A deceptively serene blanket of daylight that masks a chaotic, hyper-violent plasma furnace. It is not a gentle protector. It is a volatile, self-sustaining nuclear bomb held in a fragile truce by its own crushing gravity. Every single second, this cosmic engine fuses 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium, converting raw mass into a blinding torrent of pure energy. It dictates the trajectories of entire worlds, holding the absolute power to create, or instantly incinerate, biological life. Side by side with the Sun, our entire planet is instantly reduced to a microscopic speck of cosmic dust, a single grain of sand drifting against a roaring wall of fire. The diameter of the Sun is 109 times that of Earth. Across this gargantuan volume, loops of superheated plasma arch hundreds of thousands of miles into the void, large enough for dozens of Earths to pass through completely untouched. We are racing through space in the direct path of a celestial sniper rifle, protected only by an invisible magnetic shield that is slowly weakening. To understand the monster, to survive its ticking chronological clock, humanity had to do the suicidal. We had to touch the fire. In the dark, silent hours of August 12, 2018, a monument to human defiance stood on the coast of Florida. This was the birth of the Parker Solar Probe.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff of the mighty Delta IV Heavy rocket with NASA's Parker Solar Probe. A daring mission to shed light on the mysteries of our closest star, the Sun.
Weighing no more than a small car, this delicate bundle of carbon, titanium, and silicon was designed to fly closer to a living star than any object in human history.
25 seconds into flight. Chamber pressures continue to look good on all.
It required 55 times more energy to reach the center of our solar system than it would to reach the red deserts of Mars.
Pressure on the core booster is throttling down to partial thrust mode. Response looks good.
A scream of chemical fire tore the night apart. Shaking the very foundations of the Earth, humanity launched its silent messenger into the deep, unforgiving void. It was a beautiful, terrifying declaration. That though we are trapped on a fragile blue fortress of rock, our collective curiosity knows absolutely no fear.
1 minute, 10 seconds into flight. Coming up on 1 minute, 19 seconds into flight, max Q, maximum dynamic pressure, and Mach 1, Delta 4 is now supersonic. One minute, 30 seconds into flight. Important start.
The mechanical pioneer was officially cast out of the cradle, separated from its massive booster engines, embarking on a lonely, one-way odyssey toward its brilliant executioner. Watch the iron shell fall away into the vacuum. The machine is now completely alone, exposed to the raw friction of the deep universe. To fall toward the sun, the probe had to do something counterintuitive. It had to lose its orbital speed. It utilized the thick, toxic gravity of Venus, spiraling closer and closer with each dangerous, silent flyby. Left in the freezing dark of the inner solar system, the machine slowly began to wake up its sleeping limbs. Piece by piece, it unfolded its wings in the infinite vacuum. Carbon composite solar arrays deployed to catch the dying light, while magnetic booms and field antennas reached out into the empty void like fragile nerve endings. It was a pristine masterpiece of human engineering, spreading its delicate limbs, fully aware that its final destination was a grand furnace that accepts absolutely no survivors. Then, the impossible happened. The spacecraft officially crossed the fateful Alfvén critical surface, leaving standard interplanetary space behind forever. It had entered the corona, the sun's forbidden, mysterious outer atmosphere. Here, the laws of standard chemistry dissolve entirely into a churning sea of ionized gas governed by intense, invisible magnetic warfare. In this chaotic realm of light, The probe was no longer a mere observer, but a trespasser in the very backyard of a star. It had stepped beyond the boundary where the solar wind is born, standing face to face with the raw, untamed mechanics of stellar power. Descending further into the gravitational abyss, the lone pioneer strips away the last remnants of earthly safety. Look at that green trajectory line, a thin, fragile thread spun by human intellect, stretching from a distant blue home into the mouth of a titan. Beyond this boundary, the sun's immense magnetic fields take absolute control over the plasma. It is a point of no return. The probe has broken into a sacred gravity well, stepping into the very backyard where our living star converts raw magnetic energy into a violent, unstoppable solar wind. As it glides past the scorched, lifeless orbit of Mercury, the environment morphs into a chaotic battlefield of subatomic warfare. The onboard fields instrument begins to scream with data. Watch these violently spiking vectors, red and blue needles of raw magnetic tension, pushing out from the spacecraft's path like jagged iron thorns. Every arrow represents an invisible fist of plasma slamming into the probe, trying to warp its structure, trying to choke its electronic voice. The probe is no longer a silent wanderer. It is physically cutting through the tangled veins of a monster, feeling the unmitigated friction of a world governed entirely by magnetohydrodynamics. These lines of force are far from static. They twist, snap, and realign in a violent phenomenon known as magnetic reconnection. With every passing mile, the invisible ropes wind into tight, unstable knots, threatening to crush the mechanical intruder. Yet, trapped within this churning sea of subatomic chaos, the fragile craft holds its ground against the volatile wrath of the Tyrant. Dressed in the blinding shroud of the inner corona, the probe dives straight into the roots of solar power. Here, it exposes the long-hidden geometry of the stellar furnace. Look at these colossal coronal funnels, looping and twisting like ghostly white roots growing out of a magnetic soil. This is where the magic and the terror happens. Within these supergranulation cells, magnetic fields undergo violent reconnections, kinking into S-shaped switches that whip the plasma and shoot it into the deep void at speeds exceeding 1,000,000 miles per hour. By sliding directly between these blazing arches, this tiny human artifact is mapping the ultimate engine of the solar storm, unlocking the terrifying secrets of coronal heating that have baffled science for centuries. This historic mission bore a unique emotional burden. It was the first NASA spacecraft ever named after a living scientist, Dr. Eugene Parker, the man who predicted the existence of the solar wind 60 years prior. In a poetic closing of a loop, the elderly creator lived just long enough to witness his mechanical namesake physically fly into the fire and touch his life's work. Shortly after, Dr. Parker passed into the stars, leaving his name etched on a microchip deep inside the furnace. But every story in the cosmos has a cost. The Parker Solar Probe is a martyr. In the coming years, its fuel supply will inevitably empty. Without propellant, the lone explorer will lose its stance. The advanced carbon shield will slowly tilt away from the fire. And in a fraction of a second, the unshielded instruments will instantly melt, turning our brilliant pioneer into a ghost of molten aluminum and carbon dust, forever assimilated into the very star it sought to understand. Long after humanity is gone, this dust will orbit the eternal ember of our living star. We are fragile, fleeting creatures, yet we dared to build a machine to embrace our executioner. It remains the ultimate testament to human curiosity that even in the face of absolute oblivion, we chose to reach out and touch the light.